January 29th, we will be reacquainted with a long-lost friend, a super powerful hand cannon obtained back in Destiny 1 that has been passed along to some of the most powerful Guardians. Today we are going to discuss the backstory of the last word, how it came to be, and what it may mean for the story of the Drifter moving forward. Hey there, welcome back Guardians, hope you are doing well, and let's dive into the mysteries behind the last word. Now, the earliest sightings of this weapon date back to a time when humanity was in a rebuilding state after the darkness invaded our home. Many humans were trying to flee their destroyed cities of rubble and try to make their way to the last safe city on Earth, a place where an alien sphere floated above and granted protection to those that would join its cause. While the city was the goal for most people, many camps still remained out there in the wild where refugees set up shop trying to keep their families safe from the Fallen. Because as we know, after the darkness invaded, the collapse, blah blah blah, the Fallen started to set in and try to find their way to take back the Traveler as it destroyed their homeworld as well. After his parents were killed by the Fallen when he was just a child, a boy by the name of Shin Malphur was taken in by his adoptive parents in one of these wildland outposts. High up on the mountain, he would play in the surrounding area as the townspeople would go about their day-to-day lives trying to complete their chores. But this settlement was a little bit different. It was run by a crazy man, the mayor I guess, named Loken. Loken went a little bit crazy after losing members of his family a while back during the disaster. Of course many people did, but this guy took a little bit too personally and kind of went insane. But just because he had these issues, did he not think anyone else did? I mean, all these people were going through the same thing. Many people lost loved ones along the way trying to get to the Traveler and ended up in one of these camps like this one, surrounded by mountain ranges. But this all changed one day when a heroic man entered this town of Palamon. The man I would come to know as Jaren Ward, my third father and quite possibly my closest friend, came to Palamon from the south. I was just a boy, but I'll never forget the silhouette on the empty trail as he made his slow walk into the town. I'd never seen anything like him, maybe none of us had. He'd said he was only passing through and I believed him, still do, but life can get in the way of intent and often does. I can picture that day with a near perfect clarity. Of all the details though, every nuance, every moment, the memory that sticks in my head is the iron on Jaren's hip. It was a cannon that looked both pristine and lived in, like a relic of every battle he'd fought, hung low at his waist, a trophy and a warning. So here Jaren Ward, who is the creator of the last word, entered Shin's town of Palamon and took down the crazy leader Loken and basically saved the people from his tyrant ways. As described by the card I just read, Shin was mesmerized by this man Jaren, and he soon would become his second adopted father and taught him the ways of the wild. Now next to just noticing Jaren and all his heroicness when he entered the town, you can also see the description of the weapon that Jaren had as well. But all this goodness would one day come to an end. While exploring out there in the wild, a darkness-infused guardian named Dredgen Yor made his way to Palamon and burnt the place to the ground. Fleeing into the forest that surrounded, Jaren was killed, leaving his ghost, Shin, and his weapon behind. This is the moment that sort of began Shin Malphur's quest to end the guardian who wielded what they called Thorn. It was his destiny to avenge his mentor and father and put the shadows to rest once and for all. So he did. After many of these battles and encounters and trying to track down Dredgen Yor, Shin Malphur eventually ended him at a place called Dwindler's Ridge, and the last words were his. So there you have a little bit of the origin of the last word, or the weapon that Jaren had, and how he and Shin formed a bond that would last until his death. But something else that's interesting to think about is the last word had a twin. This was called the First Curse and was actually obtainable in Destiny 1, I believe back in the Taken King. Now many people believe that the First Curse is the actual weapon that Jaren Ward had, described when Shin saw it in Palamon, but let's go ahead and read the description on it. People always forget about the other one, the first one. They remember its twin, the last word, because that's an easier story to tell, but it's not the whole story. Truth is, there were two of them back in the lawless days before the city was anything more than a rumor. There are thousands of tales of the fate of the First Curse. Which one will you tell? So pretty mysterious description. Now, like I said, this thing came along in the Taken King, and we can see that the original one was lost, and the ones that Guardians sort of wheeled out there in the wild are replicas, because when we did that quest, we can see from many quotes that Banshee was reforging this weapon with someone from Tex Mechanica. They say the last word in the first curse, sisters, partners, but one was lost to fire, and with it, the memory of how to forge it. They said the first curse was so powerful, its wielder didn't even think about killing. The killing just happened. And lastly, we're bringing back a legend. Yes sir, we've partnered with Banshee 44 and a Guardian to reverse engineer the first curse. So thought that was pretty cool to share. The first curse is related to Jaren, Shin, and the last word, but for many people it's fallen under the radar since its release in 2015. Now, not gonna lie, I myself had no idea this thing existed until about a month ago. I mean, I probably did it at some point, you know, back when Destiny 1 was a thing, but I'm sure most people recognize the last word over that 2015 version. Now, the whole backstory with the first curse is quite a jumble. I mean, we know that Jaren had and created it, but as to how it was lost and when the last word became the primary weapon of choice, I am personally unsure. Now moving on, as I'm sure you are aware, the draw quest will become available next Tuesday upon reset, which is the 29th. This quest will not be time gated, which has been confirmed by Bungie by the way, so that's definitely super nice to hear, and you can complete the whole quest if you want, starting on reset. But in terms of the last word this time around, what do we know? Now, some of this information has been leaked, including quest steps and the lore, so there's sort of your warning if you don't want to hear any of that before Tuesday, as we're going to discuss that right now. So here's a look at some of the perks thanks to Reddit with all this beautiful information. This user right here posted it, and let's take a look at what we've got. So first up, the description, it says, of course, exotic hand cannon, and yours until the last flame dies and all words have been spoken. Shin Malphur to you as you journey forth into the unknown. So that line is pretty cool. In the lore, we've seen, you know, Shin talking to different characters like, I believe, Shax and, you know, the Drifter. But with the last word, he's making a connection with us, saying, hey, move forward on this journey, try and stop the shadows with me, and be the best guardian you can be. So here are some of the perks. You have the usuals: textured grip, hipfire grip, accurized rounds, corkscrew rifling, and then the intrinsic perk fanfire. It says this weapon can be fired quickly and continuously, faster reload and increased accuracy and successive hipfire damage. Now I don't really do weapon reviews or anything like that, so I'm not the best, but with this beautiful image created you can also see the impact range and all those stats right here. Now next to the perks and the stats and the lore, you can also see this ornament right here. It's kind of hard to make out because the picture is really tiny, but you will have an ornament choice if you don't really enjoy the default design. So that's a little bit about the weapon and its perks, but what's going to happen with the quest? How's it going to go, and how are we going to obtain the last word in the first place? So this quest is kind of weird. It's called the Draw, and I'm sure the Drifter is going to give it to us first, and it involves us taking this tainted artifact and trying to stop Hive enemies from crafting weapons of sorrow. So for those of you that don't know, an example of weapon of sorrow would be Thorn. These are weapons that were created by humans and have sort of been tainted by this Hive magic. So it's kind of weird. We end up doing a bunch of different stuff, a mission, I believe a lost sector on Titan, some other things, and at the end it says you defeated the Hive Weapon Master thanks to a mysterious gift, the last word. What would the Drifters say about that? So if you know the whole story between Shin and Dredgen Yor and that whole debacle, you know this is kind of weird. It's like we're on the side of Dredgen, but we end up getting the last word. Or at least, you know, not on the same side. It seems like we're fighting, you know, Hive who are creating weapons of sorrow. It seems like we would get a weapon of sorrow, but it turns out being the last word, something to stop them. Now with that last step, it also makes me wonder, because it says, thanks to a mysterious gift, the last word, we're able to stop this Hive Weapon Master. So is like the Drifter going to give it to us when we arrive to him, or are we going to find this somewhere else and use it to sort of complete that final mission? Not sure. But whatever is going to happen, you can be assured that I have another video next week talking about the whole lore backstory to all of this. And speaking of the lore, let's talk about the weapon's own story. So here's what the lore description says. Knew this day would come, and with it, one last lesson. There's an end to all things, kid, good and bad. Sure, the best times seem small and the bad tend to linger, but the only permanent is eternity, and I'm off to meet it. If you're lucky, someday you will too. For now though, you've got a road yet traveled and lives yet lived. I know you got hate in you, most do. Trick is to use it instead of it using you. But you know, this vengeance is a motivator, not the motive. Meant to hope to say these words to you one last time in person, but writing them down seems a safe bet with the prey we're tracking. Worst part about being a good guy? As much as you may want it, you can't always win. But that truth don't bother me. We do the right thing, cause the right thing needs doing. So when another does harm, cast their shadow upon you or your kin, you go ahead and hunt for the justice needed to answer any sins inflicted. Don't hunt them cause you've been wronged, hunt them because what they did was wrong. There's a world of a difference there, kid. One makes you selfish, the other makes you a hero, and I see a hero in you. And with this last good lesson, a gift. I know it feels right in your hand, it's weight easy, it's smooth trigger. Use it as you will, I know you'll use it right. It's yours now, till the last flame dies and all the words have been spoken. Till that time, safe journeys, straight aim, and good hunting. Jay. So this says it was a letter to Shin Malphur from his third father Jaren Ward, written before Ward's ill-fated showdown with the infamous Dredgen Yor in the wooded hollow beyond Beggar's Gulch. So essentially this was a letter written from Jaren to Shin right before he died, and he gives him the last word. But Guardians, that's all I got for today's video. Just sort of wanted to introduce the last word backstory to those who haven't seen it before. Maybe you need a little bit of a refresher, and it's definitely going to be exciting next week when we're going to be able to obtain this thing once again. So if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for some more awesome Destiny 2 news and entertainment. My name's Evade, and I'll catch you Guardians in the next one.